In a world addicted to urgency, to noise, to escape, there exists a creature that rarely runs. Even when threatened, it does not panic. It pauses. It remembers. What kind of strength lives in such stillness? We call it an elephant, but that word, so familiar, hardly does justice to the presence it describes. This is not merely an animal. It is a monument in motion, a breathing cathedral of silence and patience, whose very footsteps seem to echo across centuries. Watch it long enough, and something strange happens. The rush in your chest begins to slow. The noise in your mind softens, and a question, quiet but unshakable, begins to surface. What does it know that we don't? Because here is a creature who does not posture, does not demand, does not bend to the theater of fear. When the world howls, it listens. When the world scatters, it stays. Even when a threat emerges, lion, poacher, or storm, it doesn't flee. It doesn't flinch. Instead, it pauses. It assesses. It decides. Not because it is numb, but because it is wise. We, on the other hand, run from everything. We flee from discomfort, from silence, from ourselves. We scroll, numb, distract, overthink, escape. We confuse motion for meaning. We think faster is better. That noise equals truth. That strength is loud. But what if we're wrong? What if true strength isn't in how loudly we speak, but in how quietly we endure? What if real power lies not in force, but in presence? And what if the elephant is not just a symbol of nature, but a teacher, an ancient stoic, wrapped in thick skin and memory, walking slowly through time? In this reflection, we'll walk beside them, not to watch, but to learn. Through their way of being, we'll explore the roots of inner strength, as seen through the lens of Stoicism, the philosophy of composure, of clarity, of control over self. So, take a breath. Let the noise fall away. Step into the dust and silence of the savannah, where giants walk without fear and teach without words. What can the elephant teach us about being unshakable? To walk beside an elephant is to walk beside something ancient, not only in years, but in wisdom. There is no rush in them, no need to prove, no need to defend, and that is what makes them powerful. We often confuse strength with dominance, presence with volume, control with speed. But the elephant teaches us another form of power, one that echoes the core of Stoic philosophy. To be unmoved by what is beyond you. To master what lives within you. This is the Stoic path. And perhaps the elephant has walked it longer than we have had words for it. Consider this. The elephant is born into a world of predators, storms, and droughts. She learns early that pain is inevitable. That loss will come. That death is not a punishment, but a part of the journey. And yet, she does not harden. She does not panic. She does not flinch at the wind. Like the Stoics, she accepts what is beyond her control, the drought, the death, the disappearing rivers, and focuses only on what she can control. Her next step, her next breath, her unwavering presence with the herd, what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. The elephant lives without needing to name it. Some things are up to us, and some are not. Epictetus, where we obsess, elephants observe. Where we react, they respond. Where we spiral, they stand. Even their anger, when it comes, is not reckless. It is rooted, calculated, rare. They do not live on the edge of panic. They live within the breath between moments. And what a wide, quiet space that breath is. The elephant doesn't try to escape life. She enters it fully. With wide ears, with soft eyes, with a body that remembers every journey, every danger, every joy. And still, she moves forward without losing her center. Isn't that what we're searching for? Not a life without storms, but a life where the storm cannot take us from ourselves? The Stoics spoke often of the inner citadel, that sacred, untouchable space within us that no misfortune, no cruelty, no chaos can break into. The elephant walks with hers intact. Every step is a refusal to abandon it. She does not seek approval. She does not chase legacy. She simply is, whole, aware, grounded. And what is Stoicism, really? But the art of becoming unshakable. Not through resistance, but through alignment with nature. Through surrender to reality, not submission to fear. We spend our lives trying to outthink the world. But the elephant, she feels the earth through her feet. She hears water through vibrations in the ground. She senses danger, not with panic, but presence. She is not cut off from her instincts. She is in communion with them. So when the Stoics speak of living in harmony with nature, perhaps they mean what the elephant already knows. To be at peace with what is, to be loyal to the moment, to walk, not to arrive, but to be. Not all wisdom is written. Some is walked, slow and silent and heavy with meaning. The elephant does not read Stoic texts. She embodies them. Watch an elephant from behind, not just the sway of muscle and mass, but the shadow she casts. There is something ancient trailing behind her, not physical, but emotional. A gravity, a memory, a story. She does not just carry her body, she carries a lifetime, and not just her own. Elephants are matriarchal, guided by the oldest female in the herd. She remembers the paths to water that no map holds. She knows the scent of danger, the rhythm of migration, the seasons of life and death. But memory, for an elephant, is not just survival. It is grief. It is bond. It is burden. They have been observed returning to the bones of their dead, touching them, pausing beside them in silence. Mothers who've lost calves have been known to carry the bodies for days, unwilling to let go. What creature mourns so deeply and yet continues walking? What human does? We too carry. We carry loss, shame, expectations. We carry roles, regrets, and unfinished conversations. We carry what was said and what wasn't. But unlike the elephant, we often carry these things unwillingly, unconsciously, as if dragged by our own past. The Stoics remind us, pain is not in the thing itself, but in our judgment of it. What we resist persists. What we accept transforms. Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. Epictetus. The elephant does not argue with reality. She does not rage at the river for drying up. She does not curse the sun or mourn in bitterness. She carries and continues. That is amor fati, the love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but an active embrace of life as it is. The Stoics ask us not just to endure hardship, but to love it, to say, this too is mine. This weight, this wound, this lesson, not because it feels good, but because it forms us, shapes us, grounds us. Look at the elephant. Her skin is thick, cracked, weathered, not in spite of her story, but because of it. The sun has kissed her back 1,000 times. The wind has carved her silhouette, and still she walks, not to escape the past, but to carry it forward with grace. Isn't that the truest kind of strength? Not the denial of pain, but the dignified bearing of it? We often believe that healing means forgetting, that peace means lightness, but maybe peace is something heavier than we thought. The quiet agreement to carry what cannot be changed without letting it bend your spine. The elephant teaches us this with every step. She does not compartmentalize her grief. She does not outsource her pain. She walks with it, side by side. And in doing so, she is not diminished. She is deepened. To carry is not to be crushed. To remember is not to be broken. To hurt is not to be weak. We too can be strong and soft, tired and wise, wounded and walking. The world will not stop handing us weight, but we can learn to carry it differently, not with resentment, but with rhythm, not dragging it behind, but placing it on our shoulders, balanced, steady, like a matriarch who knows the way home. So the question isn't how to drop the weight. The question is, how do we walk with it? And the elephant answers, one step at a time. No elephant walks alone for long, even in the vast openness of the savannah, where space stretches into silence. They move together, not out of fear, but out of something far deeper. A kind of ancient loyalty, a bond without noise, without performance, without need for constant affirmation. In the elephant herd, everything has a rhythm. The youngest stumble forward, the oldest walk behind, keeping pace, and watch. When one pauses, the others sense it. When one grieves, the others stand still. There is no instruction, no command, only presence. We often think of strength as something solitary, the lone hero, the individual will. But what if real strength is shared? What if the greatest support system is one that speaks not in words, but in walking beside you? The Stoics believed that virtue, the highest good, was not just personal excellence, but harmony with others. To be just, to be patient, to be wise, not only for yourself, but with others. To live in accordance with nature, which includes the nature of our relationships. And elephants understand this. When a calf is born, the entire herd circles around her, not for a ceremony, not for celebration, for protection, for warmth. They do not speak. They surround. A wall of silence that says, "You are safe here. We are with you." When a member of the herd falls ill, the pace slows. The journey waits. Because the well-being of one affects the rhythm of all. How rarely do we allow that in our own lives? To move at the speed of care? To let someone's pain slow us down without rushing them forward? The herd does not fear slowness. It fears separation. And yet we, so often, wear independence like armor, as if needing others makes us fragile. But elephants show us, to walk together is not weakness, it is wisdom. To be seen in your weariness and still accepted is a kind of healing that has no words. Even in death, they do not abandon each other. They return to the bones, they linger. Some scientists call it memory, others call it mourning. But maybe it's something simpler and deeper. Love without possession. Presence without control. There is no ego in the herd, no hierarchy that shouts. Just the quiet understanding that survival is not a competition, but a collaboration. Seneca wrote, "We are members of one great body, created to work together, like hands, feet, and eyes." The elephant herd lives this truth, not as a philosophy, but as a way of breathing. So perhaps the question isn't whether we are strong enough to stand alone, but whether we are humble enough to stand with, to let our silence speak when words would only scatter meaning, to walk beside someone without needing to fix them, to offer our presence, not as a solution, but as shelter. The herd does not carry you, but it walks beside you until you can carry yourself again. That too is strength. The savanna does not always whisper. Sometimes it roars. Storms rise like gods, without warning, without mercy. The sky splits open. The wind howls across the plain like a thing enraged. Trees bend until they snap. Dust becomes a wall. Rain slashes sideways, and somewhere in that chaos, the elephants stop. Not out of confusion, not out of fear, out of awareness. They do not scatter like birds. They do not stampede like frightened deer. They pause. They become still. What creature meets the storm with stillness? And yet, there they stand, skin-soaked, eyes wide, unmoving, listening, waiting, rooted. The young may tremble beneath the legs of their mothers, but the matriarch does not flinch. She has seen storms before. She knows panic changes nothing, and noise solves nothing. It is not the force of the storm that destroys us. It is the chaos we allow inside. This is the lesson of the elephant. This is the practice of the Stoic. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius' stillness is not the absence of emotion. It is the discipline to feel fully without being swept away, to breathe when the instinct is to shout, to wait when the instinct is to run. We so often react. We fill space with noise, with movement, with endless distraction, afraid of what we might hear in the silence. But the elephant is not afraid. She listens. Stillness is her wisdom. She knows that what passes overhead, the storm, the fear, the wind, does not have to pass within. This is Stoicism lived in the body. To be grounded while the world changes. To respond, not with resistance, but with presence. You do not outrun the storm. You anchor in it. You do not close your eyes. You keep them open and soften your breath. You do not become the chaos. You become the calm. And when the rain passes, as it always does, the elephant moves again, not broken, not frantic, just walking. As if nothing was ever lost. The storm never took her away from herself. And that is the real victory. The elephants have passed now. Only their footprints remain, pressed into the dust like soft echoes. You could miss them if you weren't paying attention. But look closely, and you'll see a trail not just of movement, but of meaning. A reminder stamped into the earth. You were here, and you walked with grace. They leave behind no cities, no statues, no monuments carved in their likeness. And yet their presence lingers longer than ours often does. Because they do not seek to leave something behind. They seek only to move through the world without disturbing its balance. And isn't that the paradox of true strength? That it leaves the lightest footprint? We, who build and chase and strive, what are we actually trying to leave behind? A name? A legacy? A noise loud enough to outlive our silence? But the elephant teaches us something else. That your life is not measured by what you accumulate, but by how deeply you inhabit each moment. That real strength is not in how much you hold, but in how gently you carry it. The Stoics spoke often of eudaimonia, a kind of flourishing that comes not from wealth or fame, but from living in alignment with virtue, with nature. with who you truly are when everything else falls away. And isn't that what we saw in the elephants? Not perfection, but presence. Not control, but composure. Not fearlessness, but the courage to keep walking, even when afraid. They do not rush. They do not cling. They walk the earth as if they belong to it, and not the other way around. So maybe the question isn't what the elephant leaves behind. Maybe the question is what you will carry forward: their stillness, their grace, their strength in silence, their wisdom in movement, their deep, wordless knowing that to be alive is enough. And so, before you return to your noise, your plans, your striving, pause. Feel the ground beneath you. Take one breath and walk like the elephant. Not to escape, not to impress, but to remember what it feels like to be whole